Have you ever stepped outside into your backyard or balcony, thinking your plants are helping your home's feng shui, only to feel something odd? Not bad, just too still, too quiet, or even kind of heavy. You look around. The leaves are green, the flowers are blooming, but the energy doesn't lift you. It doesn't bring in that fresh flow of abundance. And it sure doesn't feel like luck is growing anywhere nearby. Because here's the truth most people never hear. Not all greenery supports your feng shui. Some plant 7, the pretty or popular one, can quietly disrupt the energy you're trying to build. Especially if they're in the wrong place, with the wrong shape. Or worse, if you're caring for them in ways that block flow instead of inviting it. This video is for anyone who's ever thought, I'm doing all the right things. I water my plants. I love my space. So why does it still feel off? Sometimes, feng shui mistakes don't scream. They whisper. And they show up through small things like dying leaves, random plant corners that never feel right, or a breeze that just stops. But once you know what to look for, you can shift that energy almost instantly. If this kind of wisdom speaks to you, if you've ever felt like you're doing everything to stay afloat, and it still isn't flowing, thank you for being here. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, or even drop a comment below. It helps YouTube know you're part of this quiet shift. So let's look at what's really happening in your garden and balcony. Because these aren't just plant problems. They're feng shui gardening mistakes. And some of them might be quietly killing your energy, your wealth, and your sense of ease, right from your own home. Let's start with the first one. They say watering your plants is an act of care. But if you do it at the wrong hour, you're not feeding growth. You're soaking your luck into the ground. Rachel had always thought early mornings were sacred. She'd wake up before the house stirred, make a cup of weak coffee, and head out to her little backyard garden with a watering can that had seen better years. The sun hadn't peeked out yet, but the air was cool, quiet. It was her moment of peace. Just her, the plants, and the sound of water gently hitting soil. She felt like she was starting the day right. Like this small ritual was charging the energy of her home. But something didn't click. No matter how tender she was with her garden, the energy around her space didn't match. She couldn't name it. It wasn't dramatic. It was more like her days kept getting heavier. Clients delayed payments. Appliances broke down back to back. And even though she was trying to grow her side business, nothing ever gained traction. Rachel began to notice that her backyard once, a place that felt calming now, carried a strange pause, like it was holding its breath. Not blocked, just stuck in a weird silence. From a feng shui perspective, energy isn't just about the layout of your home. It flows with time. There are specific hours of the day when qi moves freely, and others when it sinks low and flat. Watering during these low-energy hours, especially before 6 a.m., can create what's called absorptive drain. Instead of energizing your home, you're unintentionally washing the active qi straight into the earth, taking your money flow, wealth qi, and lucky energy with it. This is especially sensitive in outdoor spaces like gardens and balconies, because the soil literally receives what you pour. And feng shui sees water as wealth. So if you're watering when qi hasn't risen, you're signaling to the space, I'm giving, but I don't expect anything back. That's how flow gets reversed. It creates a weird echo in your energy. You give effort, but receive emptiness. You stay busy, but nothing builds. Rachel didn't realize how deep it ran until her friend Tessa asked a random question one afternoon. "Hey, when do you usually water those plants?" Rachel shrugged. "Before sunrise, why?" Tessa paused. "That's the quiet hour, not just outs energetically too. My grandma said if you water then, you're telling the universe you're okay with being unseen." That landed harder than expected. Rachel had been feeling exactly that. Unseen. Like her emails went unanswered. Her ideas unnoticed. Even her voice at home quieted. It wasn't just about plants anymore. It was about how she'd been showing up in life. Early, careful, polite, but not loud enough to be recognized. It's like trying to send a birthday card at 3 a.m. No one's up. The post office isn't moving. The world's energy is still curling under the blanket. So even if your message is full of love, it won't reach anyone until much later. And by then, the moment's passed. That's what watering during dead hours does. It pours life into soil that isn't listening. And the worst part? You think you're doing something good. But Feng Shui sees it as you flushing wealth flow into a sleeping system. And over time, it builds a pattern of emotional fatigue. Because your actions keep returning silence. Rachel started reading about plant circadian rhythms and how most plants don't absorb water effectively until sunlight activates their internal flow. Turns out, watering too early can cause root rot, mold, and inefficient nutrient uptake, especially if the air is still damp and cold. So not only was the feng shui off, the biology was off too. She changed one simple thing. Instead of rushing out in the dark, she waited until 7:30 a.m. The sun was warm, the energy awake, and, for the first time, watering didn't feel like a task. It felt like an offering. She spoke a quiet line as she watered. "Let this flow return to me in all forms of wealth." And just like that, the space felt different. Not louder, but lighter. Like the garden was no longer holding its breath. That week, 2 clients finally paid invoices that had been overdue for months. And one of her Instagram posts barely thought outwent mini viral, bringing in new traffic. Now Rachel jokes that she doesn't water her garden. She negotiates with it. If the sun's up, we talk money. If not, we nap. And just like energy, money doesn't need more hours. It needs the right hour. Water flows where attention goes. So does money. If you're pouring your energy into the void, don't be surprised if it echoes. The energy you give matters, but when you give it, matters more. They say watering your plants is an act of care, but if you do it at the wrong hour, you're not feeding growth. You're soaking your luck into the ground. Rachel had always thought early mornings were sacred. She'd wake up before the house stirred, make a cup of weak coffee, and head out to her little backyard garden with a watering can that had seen better years. The sun hadn't peeked out yet, but the air was cool. Quiet. It was her moment of peace. Just her, the plants, and the sound of water gently hitting soil. She felt like she was starting the day right. Like this small ritual was charging the energy of her home. But something didn't click. No matter how tender she was with her garden, the energy around her space didn't match. She couldn't name it. It wasn't dramatic. It was more like her days kept getting heavier. Clients delayed payments. Appliances broke down back to back. And even though she was trying to grow her side business, nothing ever gained traction. Rachel began to notice that her backyard once, a place that felt calming now, carried a strange pause, like it was holding its breath. Not blocked, just stuck in a weird silence. From a Feng Shui perspective, energy isn't just about the layout of your home. It flows with time. There are specific hours of the day when qi moves freely, and others when it sinks low and flat. Watering during these low-energy hours, especially before 6 a.m., can create what's called absorptive drain. Instead of energizing your home, you're unintentionally washing the active qi straight into the earth, taking your money flow, wealth qi, and lucky energy with it. This is especially sensitive in outdoor spaces like gardens and balconies, because the soil literally receives what you pour. And Feng Shui sees water as wealth. So if you're watering when qi hasn't risen, you're signaling to the space, I'm giving, but I don't expect anything back. That's how flow gets reversed. It creates a weird echo in your energy. You give effort, but receive emptiness. You stay busy, but nothing builds. Rachel didn't realize how deep it ran until her friend Tessa asked a random question one afternoon. Hey, when do you usually water those plants? Rachel shrugged. Before sunrise, why? Tessa paused. That's the quiet hour, not just outs energetically too. My grandma said if you water then, you're telling the universe you're okay with being unseen. That landed harder than expected. Rachel had been feeling exactly that. Unseen. Like her emails went unanswered. Her ideas unnoticed. Even her voice at home quieted. It wasn't just about plants anymore. It was about how she'd been showing up in life. Early, careful, polite, but not loud enough to be recognized. It's like leaving expired food in the fridge. You know it's there. You see it every time you reach for something fresh. But you keep pushing it to the back, as if its quiet presence won't affect the rest. But it does. It creates odor. It shifts temperature. It turns good things bad slowly. That's exactly what dead plants do in your Feng Shui field. They don't yell. They don't rot in a dramatic way. They just sit. And sit. And subtly kill the lucky flow that was supposed to be moving through your home. Rachel did some research and learned that leaving decomposing plant matter in pots or beds invites pests, especially fungus gnats and mildew spores that quietly spread. She also found studies about the psychological toll of visual decay, how consistently seeing lifeless things can subtly increase anxiety, emotional fatigue, and a sense of energetic heaviness in the brain. It wasn't just spiritual. It was neurological. One afternoon, Rachel finally did it. She picked up a small trowel, walked out barefoot, and gently pulled the dead marigolds out, roots and all. She didn't toss them. She buried them in a corner under the fig tree, not as waste, but as memory. Then she whispered a line she didn't expect. Thank you for blooming when I couldn't. The next day, she replaced them with mint. Alive, fragrant, growing fast. And the weirdest thing? Her upstairs neighbor, who rarely spoke, saw her outside and handed her a pot of basil. No words. Just a smile and a nod. It felt like the energy around her was noticing her again. Like she was open to wealth and connection again. Not by force, but by flow. Now Rachel has a rule. If it's dead, we bless it. then toss it. She even wrote a label and stuck it in her planter. No ghosts allowed, only fresh cash energy. And hey, if your money's been slow, don't blame the bills. Check the basil. If energy flows where life grows, then dead weight is your first clue. Let it go. And let the cash start breathing again. A garden doesn't just grow what you plant. It grows what you allow. In Feng Shui, what greets you at the door sets the tone for everything that follows. If sharpness is what meets the flow, then sharpness is what you carry in. Rachel always thought aloe vera was lucky. It looked strong. It survived anything. It was practical, low maintenance, and good energy, according to every plant blog she'd ever read. So she placed 2 big aloe pots at the front steps, one on her small balcony near the sliding glass door. Balanced, symmetrical, intentional. But the weird thing was, after she did that, the space didn't feel better. It felt prickly. Not sharp like pain, but sharp like tension. Like she was always on alert. She started bumping into small problem emails misfired, clients got petty, even her cat started refusing to sit near the patio door. And she couldn't explain it. The house was clean. She was showing up. But life felt like walking barefoot through pushpins. Here's where Feng Shui throws a curveball most people miss. Plants with sharp, pointed, or sword-like leaves create what's called qi, also known as cutting energy. It's not bad in general. In some cases, it can be used to protect. But placed at entry zones, your front steps, back doors, balcony access, qi acts like an invisible wall. It cuts the qi before it even enters. That means all the wealth, cash opportunities, and lucky flow coming your way gets sliced before it touches your space. Instead of inviting money in, you're unintentionally repelling it. It's like opening your wallet and shouting, "Back off!" And the wild part? You don't see it. Because in the West, spiky plants are seen as tough and resilient. But in Feng Shui, that exact toughness turns into energetic hostility, especially near entrances. Rachel realized something wasn't right when she tripped twice on the same aloe pot near the back door. No injuries. Just this uncomfortable jolt that kept happening during the most stressful weeks of her month. And then she noticed, the days she passed by those plants were always the days she felt the most drained. She'd walk out for fresh air and come back feeling worse. That corner had gone from sanctuary to static. And the deeper truth hit hard. She had surrounded herself with strong energy because she had been feeling unprotected. The aloe wasn't the enemy. It was a mirror. It said, "I don't feel safe, so I make things sharp." And the space responded in kind. It's like having a doormat that says, "Welcome," but installing barbed wire around the frame. Any or anything that comes by feels that contradiction. They don't know why. They just don't stay. That's what qi near doorways does. It creates micro-resistance. It pushes energy back. It tells money and abundance to try somewhere else. And you end up wondering why good things stop just short of reaching you. Rachel dug into it, and even from a non-feng shui angle, the psychology checked out. Biophilic design research shows that spaces with jagged or pointy visual element, especially at eye level, tend to activate low-level anxiety in the brain. It's part of our evolutionary pattern recognition system. Sharp equals danger. So it wasn't just energy. It was literal nervous system friction, triggered by her own design choices. She took a breath, stepped out, and moved both aloe pots away from the doorways. Placed them farther out in the garden where their protection made sense. Then she replaced them with soft, round-leaved herbs. Thyme and lemon balm. Suddenly, the energy shifted. Light entered the patio again. The wind felt smoother. Even her cat came back and curled up in the sunny patch near the glass. And Rachel? She felt it in her body, like her chest had been unclenched for the first time in weeks. Now she laughs about it with her cousin. I've Feng Shuied myself into a cactus mood. No wonder money avoided me. I probably stabbed it emotionally at the door. She even gave her aloe a new name. Miss Boundary Queen. Because in life and in Feng Shui, you can have protection. Just don't place it where abundance wants to enter. Energy enters how you greet it. And money? It doesn't like walking through a maze of knives. Wisdom signature line. Softness invites more than sharpness defends. If you're starting to feel the shift, if some part of you is nodding quietly, thinking, that might be what's been missing, this is your sign. Tap like, hit subscribe, or leave a comment about the plant you're moving today. You never know who you'll help just by sharing it. Where clutter gathers, energy clogs. And the worst kind isn't loud. It's the kind that just sits and sits until it starts stealing your momentum. At first, the garden still felt good. Rachel had replanted a few sections. She'd removed the spiky plants. She was finally waking up without that tight feeling in her chest. But something small started gnawing at her again. Not heavy like before. Just this weird drag-like mornings took more effort than they should. Like the breeze came halfway and then gave up. It wasn't until she moved a small bench near the far left corner of her garden that she noticed it. A random pile. A broken pot. 2 rusted tools. An empty bag of soil folded over like a soggy envelope. And a cracked plastic saucer shoved between the fence and an old plant stand. Nothing big. Nothing loud. Just forgotten things. Things she didn't even see anymore. In Feng Shui, corners are collection points. They are where energy turns. They hold the pulse of how qi wraps and flows through your space. When corners are open, qi circulates soft, alive, and generous. But when corners become dumping grounds, they create stagnant pockets. That energy doesn't just sit there. It starts pulling down everything around it. And in outdoor space, especially gardens or balconies, this is even more amplified. Because outdoor qi is thinner, more responsive, more delicate. Leaving tools, pots, or random items to pile up creates what Feng Shui calls anchor blocks. They interrupt the qi's loop, and slowly, they begin to suppress your wealth flow, not by force, but by dulling momentum. It's like saying, I'm done here. No more movement, no more receiving. And your garden listens. Rachel had spent so much time tending the visible parts, plants, paths, and pots, that she forgot about the quiet corners. But that pile wasn't just trash. It was emotional residue. The broken pot? That was from the week she missed her sales goal and knocked it over rushing to a call. The empty bag of soil? Left there after a failed herb project she never had energy to restart. The rusted trowel? A gift from someone she no longer spoke to. It wasn't just clutter. It was frozen narrative. A story that said, this part of me, I don't want to look at. But Feng Shui doesn't wait for permission. It amplifies what's present, visible or not. It's like leaving one junk drawer in your kitchen. You never open it. You forget what's in it. But every time you walk past it, somewhere in your body, you know something's unresolved. That drawer might be closed, but its energy leaks. And in Feng Shui, that kind of leak at the edge of your home isn't just a leak. It's a slow siphon. It takes money opportunities, turns them into maybe laters. It grabs lucky chances and stalls them at the door. Not because you're unworthy, but because your space keeps signaling, "I'm not quite ready." Rachel later found out that clutter, especially in low-visibility spots, triggers low-grade mental fatigue. Psychologists call it cognitive drag. It's what happens when your brain is forced to filter out messes you don't actively see, but still unconsciously register. This subtle stress has been linked to procrastination, decision delays, and even poor sleep quality. And that matched what she'd been feeling. Sleepy. Delayed. Not blocked, just slowed. That weekend, she set aside 1 hour. One trash bag. One soft playlist. She didn't overthink it. She didn't try to fix the whole yard. Just cleared the corner. She tossed the broken pieces, rinsed the tools, folded up the bag, and placed a round ceramic wind bell in that exact spot. Soft blue. Gentle chime. Nothing big, but something shifted instantly. The air felt clearer. The breeze reached farther. The space around that corner stopped holding its breath. And the following Monday, she got 3 inquiries from clients she hadn't heard from in over 6 months. She didn't chase them. They just came. Now that garden corner is her favorite. She even gave it a name. The Wealth Turnaround Zone. And she made a rule. No item gets to live there without a purpose or a cute story. Because even in outdoor spaces, cash doesn't like confusion. If energy's hesitating in your home, chances are something's silently hoarding the signal. Money is movement. If something's been stuck for a while, clear a corner. Flow loves a clear path. You don't have to fix everything. Just stop ignoring what you've parked in the shadows. If energy keeps rushing in and out, you're not receiving flow. You're leaking it. Feng Shui isn't just about letting energy in. It's about knowing how to hold it. There was a morning that finally made Rachel stop and feel it. The wind had picked up just lightly. Enough to stir the curtains. Enough to rattle a few chimes she had hung last year and forgotten to adjust. She was standing by the sliding door, coffee in hand, watching the breeze push through the balcony. The leaves shimmered, the herbs rustled, the air danced. But for some reason, it didn't feel uplifting. It felt empty. Like the wind came to visit, took what it wanted, and left. No trace. No stillness. No energy held behind. She realized then, her garden had motion, but not momentum. It moved, but it didn't build. In Feng Shui, wind is breath. It's how qi travels. It brings freshness, shifts, stuckness, stirs opportunities. But just like breath, if there's no pause, no anchor, the energy never settles. Gardens and balconies often have this problem. They become wind tunnels. When air flows too directly through, with no objects to catch or redirect it, qi rushes in and rushes right back out. And with that wind goes your cash luck, your wealth flow, your energy gains. Instead of nourishing your space, it turns into a constant leak. Think about it. If energy flows through and nothing holds it, how can abundance stay? That hit deep. Rachel wasn't just watching wind pass through. She was watching herself. Always open, always available, always giving attention, care, time, energy. But when it came time to receive, she didn't know how. Or worse, she didn't build the habit to hold it. She realized her garden wasn't the only thing wide open and ungrounded. Her entire life had been that way. Busy, breezy, moving. But nothing stayed. Ideas fizzled. Clients flaked. Moments came and went. None of it settled. None of it built. Her space had been showing her all along. She just wasn't reading the wind. It's like filling a bowl with water under a running tap. But the bowl has no bottom. You hear the water. You see the motion. But nothing stays. That's what open-air chi does without anchors. It fills your space with the illusion of flow, but never deposits anything real. Feng Shui teaches, if you want abundance, don't just invite it in. Give it somewhere to land. From an environmental psychology angle, spaces with constant airflow without grounding elements can actually increase nervous system stress. There's no pause. No still point. No container. That matches what many people experience. Mental fatigue, decision restlessness, or always feeling one step behind. Because the energy literally keeps passing through, never integrating. Rachel decided to make one small change. She walked into her garden and looked for a point where the wind always funneled through. Then she placed a ceramic planter, wide and round, filled with river stones. Not flashy, not expensive, but solid, intentional. Next to it, she added a low wooden bench knot to sit, but to catch energy. Finally, she hung one wind shimeno for sound, but for presence, the kind of chime that sings only when the wind is just right. And then she waited. Nothing happened instantly, but something clicked. The next time the wind came through, it didn't whoosh and leave. It circled. It played. It lingered. And so did she. For the first time in a long time, Rachel felt like her space wasn't just a pass-through. It was a container, a keeper, a place where things could stay, grow, and build. Now she calls that spot her money catcher corner. She even joked with a friend, if the wind wants to bring me a check, at least now I have a tray out. Because the truth is, sometimes the most powerful feng shui isn't about buying more. It's about learning to hold what's already trying to come to you. If money is the wind, you can't chase it. You build something still, so it knows where to land. Energy flows everywhere. Wealth flows where it feels welcome and wanted to stay. Maybe it's not the soil. Maybe it's not the sun. Maybe it's just that your garden, like your life, has been asking for something softer, something clearer, something more you. Feng Shui isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, noticing where the flow got lost, and quietly calling it back. If this video helped shift something, even just one thought, one feeling, one corner of your day, that's already a win. And if you're on this journey too, of turning space into healing, movement into meaning, and clutter into quiet cash flow. You're not alone. We share 2 new videos every day to help guide your space, your rhythm, and your energy back to alignment. So feel free to subscribe, hit like if this resonated, or leave a comment about the one plant or corner you're ready to shift. Your space has been waiting for this, and so has your energy.